generally you've got the ingredients within a business. And what I do is spend time making sure that we combine those ingredients at the right time in the right way to achieve a particular outcome.
Welcome back to another episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms. Special guest down from Brisbane today, Richard Austin. Thanks for being here, Richard.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, tell us a bit about your journey. You've gone in a few sectors. You're actually running a couple companies now. You're the CEO of a construction firm. Tell us where that all began, and let's unpack that as much as we can.
Yeah, so without rewinding too far, but here I am rewinding a really long way. Late 90s, actually lived in Melbourne for a couple of years, East Melbourne, which was great. That was sort of hospitality days and in and around Chapel Street. And then, without labouring it too long, back to Adelaide. I'm from Adelaide originally, youngest of six, kind of grew up in middle-class Adelaide and then worked across a bunch of different sectors, had a good amount of time in the travel sector, which is where I met my now wife, and then moved out of there into media and then travelled all around Australia. And that's what took us up to Brisbane back in 2010. And then I jumped into travel insurance as it was with Covermore. And we went through a evolution with that business from being privately owned to private equity to listed to then a trade sale with Zurich all through my time when I was there. So that was a really good journey. And then prior to coming to Omnii, I ran a company called Mutual Marketplace. So we're a financial services company, procurement, accounts payable, and ultimately managed third-party transactions for up in the E17 different credit unions. And then I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to come and work for Omnii. Omnii is one of the largest fire engineering companies in Australasia. Founded here in Melbourne back in 2005, 20-year anniversary.
Same as Valentine, there you go.
That's great. And then so Marcello and Pete, who started the company 20 years ago, is still at the helm. Marcello on the tools and Pete is the executive chairman. And then in parallel with that, I hurt my back in 2015 after many years of CrossFit and surfing, and had surgery and had to give up what was a significant part of my life. And then after a year of yoga and rehab, jumped on a bicycle and started riding, not very well. And then over time got better. And then maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, chatting with some mates.
Competed a marathon.
Yes. Yeah. Or competed ultra marathon just last year, which was,
that's incredible.
Which was really good. And then started a cycling apparel business, and that keeps growing and evolving, called Third Wheel Cycling. And then in line with that, I've always done a lot of coaching, whether it's within the roles that I've done, and I facilitate kind of communication and leadership programs. And it was kind of right in and around COVID. Everyone generates a side hustle of sorts, and so my wife and I, we established a coaching business at that particular point in time, and that also has evolved now. And I've partnered with another fella who is very passionate about coaching. So we've developed a software platform called Surpassin, which is about to go live. And so everything that we've been doing by way of exchanging time with a person, we now built it up in an app, and we now hand it over to the consumer to kind of manage and run themselves. And
you told me before the cameras are shooting, you also help people in leadership even all the way across the world in India and Mumbai as well, yeah?
Yeah, so my dad's from India, came out in a boat in the 50s, and so I was fortunate to be able to go back in 2017, it might have been, with the family, and went back to where Dad was born, which was pretty cool. And as a part of that, we did a tour through Mumbai, and you can do a tour in the slum called Dharavi. And I came across a charity called Reality Gives, and they were a little school within the slum providing education to young kids. And they were reliant on tourists coming through. And then COVID hit, and all of the revenue source that they were generating just went to zero. So they literally just did an email out to anybody who might have come through as a tour, and it just sparked my interest. How can we do something for them and give back? And so we started raising some money through Mutual Marketplace, which is where I was. And then I, sort of shared these are the things that I do by way of coaching and leadership and communication training for people. And so I started running some sessions for the teachers, which was really great. And then I partnered with what was their marketing manager, Maya, at that stage as well. just to start providing some coaching and some guidance. And 4 years later, we're still coaching, catch up every once a fortnight. And so whilst I'm very fortunate in life and I've achieved some great things, the time that I spend with him is very rewarding because he's broken the cycle now. So he's bought a place off the plan. He's got himself through university. He's got his own business. He's working with some Australian-based companies, and he will move his family and the next generation. He'll move them out of Dharavi. So
I love that, and I do a lot of work with St. Vincent de Paul's. They help homelessness in this country, and it's all about breaking that cycle. So once you give a little bit of hope, and in your case, you've given a lot more and allowed someone to break that cycle, to get an education, to buy a home, and then actually move out, that changes the whole trajectory of hopefully their lineage, their cycle, which is, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
And it was really close to home because my dad, one of 9, born in India, third generation, he's Austin, so English, and then moved out here in the 50s. And I'm an exact reflection of that. My dad got an opportunity sponsored by some missionaries, back in the early 50s to come to Australia and ultimately what was Adelaide, and, met my mum sometime later and had a bunch of kids, and I'm one of those. And I'm that. So
did you say one of 9?
My dad was one of 9. I'm one of 6.
A bunch of kids. You don't see that anymore. 2 or 3 people cap out. That's incredible.
Yeah. So, and we just, grew up in sort of middle class Adelaide, and, went to, your usual public schools out there. And I've just been really fortunate just to kind of lean into opportunity, to be really mindful and disciplined with how I live my life, what I do, how I do it, and why I do it. And I've, had some amazing success.
So let's talk about that. I want to talk about your successes. I want to talk about you being the CEO at Omnii, but also I want to talk about, more importantly, your failures and your lessons, and some actionable steps that people learn from them. So what are a couple of the biggest highlights that throughout your career?
Certainly, getting the CEO role it had always been a goal. Even since being a little fella, I just kind of had this romantic notion, I want to be a businessman, and then, it's literally been I suppose a series of steps and series of opportunities that I've been fortunate to undertake, which have got me to this point. I've also been able to demonstrate that the skills that I've developed are transferable. And so I come out of financial services, and, now running a fire engineering company, and I'm not a fire engineer, and I will not ever become one. But what I've become very good at is, being really pragmatic, being really disciplined, understanding the process which is required to generate a particular outcome, and then working with the appropriate people so I can help them.
How were you welcomed coming from financial services, a different sector? How were you welcomed into that business? And how did you approach that hurdle? Because one of my company's advisors, he was big into banking. Then he became the big CEO of a property company, a building company.
Yes.
And I found his story fascinating. So that's why I ask.
Yeah. There always comes judgment. And I'm always really mindful in the role that I fulfill. People are watching what you do, how you do it, why you do it. So I love cracking jokes. I love having a laugh. Sometimes my humor's lost on some of the audience in this
crowd.
That's right. But what I spend time doing is understanding, getting to know, where are you? What's the journey that you're on? What are some of the goals that you want to achieve from a career perspective? And how can I work with you to get them? And I'm really comfortable and open having conversations with my leadership team going, if my role's the role that you want, that's completely fine. And if that is to be the case, and that's a goal that you want to work towards achieving, let's map it out. Let's have a plan together, because I'm not insecure that somebody wants my role, and I'm completely comfortable with that. So because I focus on the person and what's important for them and the reason why they, come to this, to this job every day, I think it helps kind of break through the, some of the barriers and the fact that I'm just this outside guy from outside of the industry.
A good leader's secure about having great people around him. A good leader wants someone to have that aspiration to take that role, because you can always be placed somewhere else. You can go to somewhere else. And every job, whether that be an employee, in my experience, whether that be a CEO, whether that be in sports, has a tenure. And at that time, either the passion burns away, or you want to do something new, or you want to foster talent to take that role. For me, I welcome anyone that would like to step up to that role, because it will take time for them to transition. And by that time, you can look at your next move, which might be working alongside the business to a different capacity. Might be on the board, it might be as a chairman. Who knows? But a good leader actually wants their team to want to step up and help facilitate that. So that's a big kudos to you that actually does that. And I think when you go in there that way, people aren't as threatened, or people are more, people only find you interesting if you're interested in them.
Yeah, certainly. Yep, absolutely. And I think, people don't know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
100%.
And whilst we have an external focus because, we need to work with our clients and the external stakeholders and, a bunch of different industry people, but I'm very focused internally. I'm very focused on the people and creating the right environment where, you choose to come to this place every day. You choose to come to Omnii as it is. And, I think it's our responsibility to create an environment which, on the most part, makes them feel comfortable and brings them joy, as much as work can do that. But, I want them to feel motivated and I suppose enthusiastic about the work that we're doing and the direction that we're moving in as well.
So tell us a bit about Omnii and tell us a bit about your role there.
So CEO of Omnii, pushing towards a couple of years in that particular role. So Omnii, largest fire engineering company in Australasia. Majority of what we do is fire safety engineering. And so across other than your residential houses, pick a sector and Omnii operates within it, from health to hotels to infrastructure to defense. And the other part of our business is around fire protection services. And so that's anything from any of your new builds around sprinkler head design, all the pipe layout that needs to go into that there as well. And then we also do special hazards. So you start working in oil and gas and mining. We do fire safety compliance. So we've got a bunch of tier one clients that we work with. So we do all of their annual, fire safety compliance checks, make sure that the infrastructure is, in line and hasn't been tampered with or broken. And then dangerous goods. So a lot of logistics companies, like ammonium nitrate is one particular example, are storing dangerous goods, need to look after it and treat it in a particular way. And so we provide consulting services to them.
And as you said, you got offices around the country in 3-4 states and 60 odd employees turning over 8 figures. So it's obviously no small task. Tell us some of the setbacks. So going from one industry to the other, what was going through your mind and what were some of the things that you learned? So if someone's listening to this that wants to transition to another industry, what would you say to them?
For me, it was being really clear on where my skills lie. Like, I understand how to run a business. I understand how to make, good commercial and financial decisions. I understand how to be conservative with the way that we manage expenses. But then the way that I look at it, there's a recipe which is required in order to achieve and generate the right outcomes. And generally, you've got the ingredients within a business. And what I do is spend time making sure that we combine those ingredients at the right time in the right way to achieve a particular outcome. And so while I don't need to be a fire engineer or, a fire protection services, engineer as well, I'm really mindful about making sure that we give them the tools, the systems, the environment that they need in order to operate effectively, and then make sure that I'm working with the senior leaders who are technically proficient at what, their people do, so they can coach them, guide them, and, give them the level of support which is needed to achieve the right outcome.
It's funny because when you were talking, I was thinking of that story with Henry Ford when there was a big media frenzy, when they were saying, how can you run a car company? You know nothing about cars. And he said to them, he called a meeting for a certain particular time and he said, you show up to my office and I'm going to answer every single question you've got. So it was a big media frenzy. All these reporters came, these news reporters came in, let's see what he's going to do. And now when I started asking questions, he was just sitting behind his desk, as the story has it, with a notepad and a pen. What's your question? Ask the question, you wrote it down. You asked every single question, wrote it down. Is that everyone's question? Yep. Then he started calling his engineers and answered every single one of them because I don't need to know the answers. Yeah. I hire people to know the answers. Yeah, that's right. And when you were telling me that story, that's all that I could go on in my mind. And I thought, how could you run a company like that? How could you go from financial service to the industry? There's the answer. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. You've got the knowledge there. You've got the ingredients. You just want to make sure that you're putting them in the right order and making sure you have an environment to create as you said, the best outcome possible.
Yeah, that's right.
What were some of the setbacks and some of the lessons that you learned throughout your career as well?
Yeah, and setbacks I generally find a lot of it can be internal. Like we can be our number one fan, or you can be your greatest critic. And, you know, we all spend 24/7 inside of our own heads. And whilst I'm generally pretty good at it, sometimes the thoughts that can roll about inside of that head of ours can be eroding and can be detracting from what it is that we want to work towards achieving in life. And so, you know, minimizing some of the negative self.
How do you snap out of that? So you notice you've got that thought,
yep,
and all you're noticing is that you're human because we're all human.
Yeah.
How do you snap out of it?
So I consume a lot of content. Like I read a lot of books, podcasts, and so I've just kind of developed tools within myself over time, over years, decades, where I can acknowledge, you know, different emotional states that you might be experiencing, compartmentalize, and then, you know, kind of put it in perspective, going, just because I feel a bit crap, you know, not necessarily right now, but, you know, just because I feel a bit crap today, doesn't mean I'm going to feel that way tomorrow or the next day or next week or the week after. So you kind of give the appropriate amount of energy to, I suppose, the things that you're feeling at a particular point in time, reflective of, you know, how important that they are. And so if they're important, you know, passing of a loved one, you know, it deserves the appropriate amount of, you know, your energy. But if it's something small, like somebody's being a bit abrupt or obtuse or something along those lines, well, generally what I also believe is their behavior isn't a reflection of me. It's probably a reflection of a bunch of things that have happened in their day, in their week, that have just led us to this particular point. So,
and usually it's a reflection of how someone's feeling, but I think it's important. I've read a lot of books on that too, to acknowledge that thought, like you just mentioned it, to understand you are having this thought, because I think the more you acknowledge it, what you resist persists.
Yeah.
So when you resist the thought, or no, I am feeling bad, it's okay, and you shake it in any way you can, I think it's the best way to have that thought dissipate, or that feeling, to be able to go on with your day. What you said, I read a lot about that specifically, to catch your thought and to understand you're feeling that. So I find that fascinating.
Yeah. There's and I run an internal leadership program at work, emerging leaders program. And I shared with them in the most recent one we did, which is around resilience. And there's an emotional wheel, and, you know, anyone could Google just emotional wheel, and versions of it would come up. And it's just a bunch of different words that describe various emotions that we can feel. And I shared it with the guys, you know, with the people I was training. And it goes from, you know, identifying, right, I'm feeling angry, and what's influence that might be, you know, vulnerability. And then, but just by distilling it down to words that are associated with the way that you're feeling, literally minimizes it there as well. Instead of just going, oh, I've got all this built up emotion and I feel really tense right now. It's like, no, actually, I'm feeling a bit vulnerable, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling happy, whatever it might be. And just helps to put it in perspective.
And a thing that I always use, this too shall pass. I heard a lot of people say that if it's good, don't get too happy, this too shall pass. If it's bad, don't get too worried, this too shall pass. And you can never control events that happen to you. You can only control how you respond.
Yeah.
Now, I did read, and I have to talk a little bit more about it. You got injured, your back was injured.
Yes.
And then you came back in absolute style. You did an ultra marathon. You started a cycling company. Tell me a bit about that journey. So
yeah,
you said you're a very fit and athletic person. Now I'm in trouble here. And then you've responded with that. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so I was a avid CrossFitter up in Brizzy, and CrossFit, for anyone that's done it, it's a bit cultish, but I loved it. 6 days a week. That's your people.
My friend was obsessed in it.
Yeah, you know, you talk about lifting weights, you lift weights, and, you know, the WOD and whatever. And then, you know, I hurt my back and ended up having.
Was it through CrossFit you hurt your back?
I think it was an influencing factor.
So it was one of them, yeah. Go on, yeah.
Yeah, and I used to, not very good, but I used to surf a lot all through my life. And, you know, I think the twisting and turning that you do, not that I was a very good surfer, was a part of that. And then just, you know, life. And so I got to a point, and it was sort of end of 2014, you know, one of the trainers like, you need to stop coming. Like I was not in a good way. And so that was weird, going through this breakup. You know, it's like, it's not you, it's me, but I don't want to be with you. And so I had to stop going, and then I had surgery. And then in theater, I got an infection inside of the wound. And so it was like Feb 2015, had the surgery, came out, and then for the sort of 4 months after that was worse. It was so bad. I was in so much pain. Still traveling every week for work, but consuming like some pretty hardcore meds at that time. And then the decision was with my surgeon, we need to go back in and we need to have a look. We can see something's in there. And they identified it got infected in theatre. And then, so I came out, spent about a week in hospital, and then and they did like a PICC line up under your arm into your heart. So I had like 30 days of antibiotics. And then after that, what can I do? I just need to start rehabilitation. So I started yoga and did a year of yoga. And then, you go from aggressive CrossFit training to, peace and tranquil yoga. And I got to the end of a year, I'm like, I've had enough. I need to do something else, and jumped on a bike, super unfit cycling wise. And then just started, regular time on the bike. It was kind of this piece of exercise that I could do that didn't hurt. And then coming into the end of 2018, I was like, love goals. So my goal for 2018, I want to ride 10,000 kilometers in a year. I know people do a lot more, but for me, that was a good goal. Achieved that, got just shy of maybe 11,000 it might have been. And then my wife was pregnant towards the end of 2018. And that's another interesting story as well. And so she's pregnant, and I said, next year, I said, I'd like to do 4 triathlons, one of them an Ironman, I said 3, and, 3 Olympic distance. And she's very supportive. She's like, yep, great, give it a crack. Signed up for 4 and jumped in the pool in December of 2018 and realized I couldn't even swim 50 meters very well. So then you just got to put in the minutes, you got to put in time, and you get in the, in the pool, on the bike, running. Cold days, wet days, tired days, you just up and you be super consistent. And yeah, that year did 4 as it was in the end, including one of them being a 70.3 Ironman, which was, you pay a lot of money to go through a lot of physical pain when you do an Ironman, but incredibly rewarding after you've done it. And then even last year did a ultra marathon up in Noosa, where we spent a lot of time as well. So again, had never run that distance before in my life, set a goal, and then you start leaning into it, and you just start doing what's required.
What I'm hearing a lot is you small steps, and you did the work.
Yeah.
Just repetitive, and off you go.
Yep.
But it was very impressive when I read that, and a lot of your resume and points are impressive, but that one particularly really stood out. Business success is important in giving back, but you're a father of 2 as well, and you had quite an interesting journey. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, certainly. So Tyler, my oldest, and he's an amazing human on many levels.
25 now, you said.
Yeah, 25.
My oldest is 22.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Hopefully I don't look like I should have a 25-year-old. And then we have Henry. Henry's 6. And so how Henry became to be alive is really remarkable. So my wife Emma and I, we did like decade of IVF and lots of ups and downs and, stops and starts. And it's incredibly taxing on the woman. And then we got to a point where we'd been done a couple of times within that journey, kind of because it takes a lot. And then the last time we're like, done, hang on at the boots, let's just enjoy our life. We've got Tyler and life is good. Literally Friday night, walking to meet some friends, got a message out of the blue from a close friend of ours. She's like, hey, random, there's another couple that I know. And, they've done a round of IVF. They've got 2 kids. They got like 6 fertilized embryo. They don't want to get rid of them. They want to donate them to somebody. And you guys came to mind. And then you have the back and forth, creating life is about you guys do it together. It's your DNA. And then all of a sudden, you go down this journey and I suppose thought process of it, well, are we just doing anything that we can in order to create life? And so you have lots of different conversations, and we met the other couple. Their names Jess and JP, and then we all said, "Yep, that's great. Let's lean into this. They liked us, we like them," and so we went through with that journey. And even on the day of transfer, there were 6. They defrost one, to do the transfer, and that one didn't make it. So then they defrost the second one, then they did the transfer, and that's Henry. So the fact that he's alive, like he wasn't even the first cab off the rank on that particular day, but the first one didn't make it. He
wanted to be here.
He was the second guy, and now he's just like he's excellent, and he brings so much love and joy to our life. And when I talk about third wheel cycling, I've got a couple of business partners with third wheel cycling. JP, the donor dad, is one of those business partners. So like
So you created that business after, obviously, because Henry VI, the business has been going now since COVID, you said.
Yeah, about
so 4 or 5
years. Yeah.
So you met these people through a friend for a phone call.
Yep.
Ended up getting the egg donated. Second egg, cab off the rank was Henry.
Yes.
Started a business together.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an incredible story.
It's random.
But it's incredible.
It
and
is.
Obviously, I know the answer. You're still close and friends now because you're business partners as well.
They're our family. And so we all agreed and made a decision that we'll be open and transparent at how he's become to be a human. And because Henry's got, a full blood brother and sister in their kids. Yes, they got their mum and dad, and we're mum and dad to Henry, but we are connected in, such an incredible and special way. So
I thank you so much for sharing that story. That is incredible, because I know a lot of people close to me as well that have had IVF, some successful, some unsuccessful, but to hear that story, and also to hear that a couple of times you said this is getting too difficult. I've never been through that, but I've seen on the sidelines how taxing it's been on people that are so close to me, and it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's tough. And unless you're going through it and trying to navigate through the ups and downs that it brings to your life, I didn't appreciate it beforehand, but, I have a huge amount of respect for those that are going through it now. And even since then, my wife is, she's a national marketing manager of Q-Scan radiology, but even now she went and put herself through a counseling degree, and she does fertility counseling because she's so passionate about wanting to help.
And she knows so much about it.
That's exactly right.
Once again, thanks again for sharing that amazing story. Now, we could talk business, we could talk fitness all day, but it's come to that time of the podcast now. You ready for your quick fire questions?
Certainly.
Okay. What's the first thing you think of when you wake up?
I need to wash my face.
What single word gets you out of bed every morning? Is there one word that motivates you?
Not particularly. I just, good days, bad days, get up, get on with it. And, whether you're feeling crappy, whether you're not, don't whinge about it. Just do it.
What's your favorite brand of music or genre?
Don't mind some deep trance.
What's the first album you ever bought? Do you remember?
What were they called? The Pet Shop Boys?
I think mine was Salt and Pepper or something.
Yeah, okay.
I won a CD and I was so happy.
Oh, yes.
Favorite country you visited?
Oh, we are very fortunate to be here in Australia, but one of the best holidays we've done, Croatia. It's just a beautiful part of the world. And what we did on that particular holiday was, was epic, was excellent.
I have a dear friend of mine he's got a house in Croatia. He's begging me to go stay there, and he says it's amazing.
It is.
Most adventurous thing you've ever done?
I've done a lot of things. Going back to where my dad was born in India was amazing. I've done quite a few multi-day hikes over through New Zealand, and I got a milestone birthday coming up in April of 2026, and I got the green light, so I was signed up. We're doing Everest Base Camp in April next year, so just starting to cast my mind towards the next physical goal.
I love that. And you read that, and you also commented it's good to make a memory that lasts for more than one day.
Yes.
Which is very, very incredible.
Yeah.
But I think as we get older as humans, we value more experiences.
Yeah.
And they're the things you're going to really take with you with your family.
Yeah, that's right.
If you could meet one legend, dead or alive, who would it be?
Something that always comes to mind is Barack Obama.
Who is your mentor, if you've got one?
It's a gentleman I've known since the early 90s. His name's Nigel Hennessy, and we have regular time together. And that's something I had craved. And I find the more senior you get in the roles that you have, it can be difficult to get that type of relationship. And he's had like a lot of super senior roles, British Aerospace, and, in global positions. And so we have regular time together, and, he's kind of in the well into the, back 10% of his career. But he's really helpful, just sounding out. He's walked in this journey, he's walked down this pathway before. So having regular time with him is...
I've got 3 advisors and mentors, and I think it's important. As you get older, you learn a lot and you become a sponge, and people give so much to you as you're doing. You want to start giving back your knowledge, your time, resource if possible. I think it's important.
Yeah.
What's your favorite or greatest piece of wisdom that you've ever heard?
It was a movie, Shawshank Redemption. It was like, get busy living or get busy dying. It's as simple as that.
I like it. Favorite song?
Oh, I don't have one.
And the most important question, On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on our podcast?
Oh, we'll just go at 10.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you on. Now, remember, if you want to see more episodes of Relentless, like, share, and subscribe. Until our next episode, have a good day.